I get asked quite a bit, what's the deal with the snakes? And so I figured I would explain. I'm kind of lost right now, so just making my way through this area. Thought it'd be a fun time to record. Basically what happened was this. I was no longer in my parents' home, and I thought that I should be a man. And there was a spider in the house, and the spider was up on the ceiling, and we had vaulted ceilings, so the ceiling was up there pretty high. And I rolled up some socks from the laundry, and I threw my socks up at the spider, thinking that I would, I don't know, kill it or something. And the spider fell down, and it landed on me, and I made this noise. And I heard myself make that noise, and I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, no, this cannot be who I am. I cannot be making noises like that. So I decided to try and imitate the thinking. It's like my first life coaching, I guess. I was gonna try and imitate the crocodile hunter. And so I saw that he wasn't so afraid of things. Look at that, I just broke free into some sort of a open space. He wasn't so afraid of things. And so I wanted to not be so afraid of things. And I had seen on some Discovery Channel stuff that a lot of fear is just like lack of understanding, lack of reps. And so I didn't have all my life coaching knowledge right at this time to like take my thoughts captive or anything like that. But I figured this is what I'm gonna do. Every time I see a spider, I'm gonna try to scoop it up in my hand and just hold it for a second before I let it go outside. And if it bites me, it bites me, because I would rather be bit than make that noise. and so that's how the journey began. And so I started asking my friend Jason to help me with this stuff, and we'd go out and we'd look for different creatures. And as we're driving one time talking about the crocodile hunter, he says, hey, if you found a snake, would you pick it up? And I was like, oh man, that'd be pretty scary. Like I get, yes, I said if I was 100% certain that it was not venomous, I would pick it up. And so that became our quest. We're like, all right, how do we find them? And it turns out the snakes are really hard to find. And so just saying I want to find a snake is not going to be enough. You have to actually kind of work at it. And I ended up learning a lot about snakes, figuring out how they operate, where they are, different times of the day, different times of the year. So the first snake I found was a garter snake. We found a few. We were in Yosemite, and it was kind of cool, to see them. I think all I did was kind of pick it up with a stick. But my favorite one, the one I remember, is like my first real snake acquisition. It was in Palos Verdes, hiking in Del Cerro Park, and I saw a gopher snake. And this thing was probably, I don't know, maybe like 3-4 feet long. And I must have checked it 50 times to see if there were rattles on this thing. I was so nervous. And so then I end up grabbing it. When I grab it, it like hisses and starts rattling its tail against the leaves, which scared me so bad. All of a sudden its head was triangular, and I'm like, oh no, am I holding a rattlesnake right now? And so I check, look at the tail. No, it's not. It's just a gopher snake. And now I know that they do that. They like fake to be rattlesnakes so that you'll put them down. But yeah, I held that thing, and I was holding it as if it was venomous. I was holding it like my life was on the line if this thing were to get me. It's pretty funny. And I videoed the whole thing, and I showed anyone that would see it. And from then on, I just wanted to feel that rush again. I just liked the idea of not being scared, not being intimidated. And they're just so hard to find that it becomes this quest where you're looking for these things. And, of course you see them in life. Everyone's seen snakes, but if you want to find one on demand, you're going to find that that's not that easy. Sometimes you even have the pressure of somebody saying like, hey, I want to go with you. Will you take me to find a snake? You're like, oh, I'll do my best, but I can't make any promises. That process has spawned a lot of life coaching inspiration, a lot of knowledge about the way life works, the way fear works. And one of the things that I love about it is that as I was going after bigger and bigger snakes, I decided I needed to get bit. And so I went out and intentionally had a snake bite me on the hand because I wanted to know what it felt like. But once you know what it feels like, you realize like, oh my gosh, this really isn't as bad as I was imagining. My fear was coming from imagining what this was going to be like. My anticipation of the bad event was causing any suffering I had, any fear I had or apprehension that I had, anything that I had to overcome. It was all imaginary. If I would have just been imagining the whole time that snake bites didn't hurt and it was no big deal, there would have been no fear, which is how I am now. And so right now, people are always like, hey, do the snakes bite you? Yeah, sometimes they do. But it doesn't matter. I mean, a snake bite is less intrusive to your life than a mosquito bite. And so I'd say it was just maybe not the beginning, but it was a cool iteration of my relationship with fear. Understanding that fear is not some sort of all-knowing oracle of the future that's warning you with this sort of supernatural insight into where there's danger and what you really need to be watching out for, which many of us take it to be in a lot of scenarios. It's actually just sort of a scared voice in your head that really prioritizes comfort and safety, that cares about you, of course, it cares about you, it's trying to keep you safe, but it just has no value on your aspirations or your dreams. When you elevate fear to be some sort of voice that's speaking into your life as guidance, when you look at fear as a guide, that's where you start to get in trouble. And I actually believe that's even what the Bible means when it says so often, be not afraid. I don't think it's saying so much don't feel fear. I mean, we're human beings, we're gonna feel fear. So feeling fear is gonna be part of life, but don't be afraid. When you feel that fear, don't let it dictate the way that you're gonna live your life. I mean, if you imagine feeling hungry, you might be hungry sometime and see a stranger with food. You don't just run over there and punch him in the face and take his food. You can just be hungry. It's like an okay thing to do, and you can live your life and you can drive with your own values and aspirations even though you're feeling hungry. Similarly, you can feel fear, and it's all right to be there. And you don't even have to really like it, but you can still live by your higher aspirations and your dreams and values and not let fear have the steering wheel. And so that's what the whole snake thing is all about. I know it's pretty funny that on one hand, I'm like trying to help people with their marriages, and on the other hand, I'm catching snakes. In my mind, they all go together. So there's a little insight into what in the world is going on up here. And I almost forgot to answer one of the most common questions I get. Is that snake venomous? Well, some people say poisonous, but don't say poisonous. Snakes are either venomous or they're not. And the answer is no. It's always no, 100% no. I do not touch venomous snakes. So now you can just know, if you ever see me in a video or a photo holding a snake, it's not venomous. And total side note, this bridge I'm on right here, this is where Whit and I had our first kiss. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and thanks so much for supporting Whit and I as we set out on our mission to spread this information out into the world so that anyone who needs it can have it. If you've been around us for years, or maybe this is your first time here and you're wanting to take this information and make it a little bit more personal, there are 3 super fun ways to work with us. Number 1, you can join our lifetime membership, where we will help you build your consistency by awakening your inner athlete. The second way is traditional one-on-one coaching. We take on a limited number of one-on-one clients, and we try to keep that number small and intimate so that we can make sure that you're feeling connected and supported. The third way is a client favorite, our adventure retreats. We believe that adventure is where fear marries fun. And when you've got 2 coaches as guides and the adventure shows up, you can't help but get unstuck. So if any of that sounds good to you and you'd like to take this a little bit deeper, you can get more information at www.steadfastlifecoaching.com. We look forward to getting to know you.